Hello, hello, hello. I hope everybody's doing well. It's your boy Larry Q. Jordan Jr., the HNICEO here at Larry Jordan Music. Uh, Also, I'm the director of the North Carolina Jazz Continuum Project, and that's really what this Conversation and Rhythms podcast is really designed to do. I know a lot of really cool people. I know a lot of brilliant musicians, and so I've had the one tonight. I'm so excited. I'm so honored to be able to talk with Mr. Ryan Hansler. Jay, what's up? That's my main student right there, young Jalen Moore. Um, Incredible young musician. I'm very proud of him. Jay, you on your way, son. All you got to do is just keep listening. So y'all give me a second because we're trying to get this thing going. It's always a bit of an issue to get it started, but once we get it rolling, we're good to go. So let me see here. I'm going to send him another invite. Hopefully, you can see that, Ryan, and we can go from there. There we go.
Yo, yo,
What's happening, man?
and got it.
That's what's
Don't
good.
mind me. Rush, dad stuff. So I'm running late as usual.
Man, you cool, man. Listen, first off, man, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for agreeing to do
Hey,
this, man.
hey, bro, man, thank you for inviting me. I'm honored. Matter of fact, man, how do I share this thing? I know there's gonna be a way to post this. So can people
Yeah,
see this on my end since we're doing this jointly?
exactly. Yeah, all of your followers will see that you've gone live, but
Oh,
in the
bet.
event that like you want to if you do want to share it, let me see here. Yeah, if you go down to your arrow button, like the arrow in the bottom right, you can hit your send button and you can pick like key people that you know what I'm saying you want to jump on.
Gotcha. All right,
Yeah.
I'll deal with that. I'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, what's happening?
Duh. Like you said, man, life, man. This thing called life, man. Um, Let me give you a proper introduction,
All
man.
right,
So y'all can already see everybody watching. This is like my older brother. You know what I'm saying? And I met Ryan in graduate school at North Carolina Central University back, geez, Louise, like 2009.
eight
And
longer than.
this, yeah, man, we getting old, doc. But we look good though.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
we're doing all
saying?
right. We're doing all right.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, this incredible jazz pianist, incredible musician, composer, arranger, he done been all around the world playing the piano. He's played with Branford Marsalis. He's a protege of not only Branford but also his pianist Joey Carterazzo. Um, I mean, played all over Europe, obviously all over the states. He's currently living in New Orleans, and so that whole New Orleans tradition, he's connected well, very well connected down there. I mean, his resume. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, like
Getting old.
to read off like your
Getting
accomplishments is it.
old.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to be humble about it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, for everybody, it's a truly an honor and a privilege for me to introduce to the Conversations in Rhythm podcast my brother from another mother, Mr. Ryan Hanseller. Give him a big round of applause. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
quite an
So
introduction,
let's get into this thing, man. So we talking about life, man.
right?
Um, yeah, bro. So let me see. What the last time I saw you was what? It's 2024. Almost. What the last time I saw you was like 10 years ago.
About life. Nah, man, well, yeah. I mean, consistently, we ran into each other. No, matter of fact, I did a gig with Gabriel Cabasa, and
Yeah.
that was like you and I kind of like reunited after like 10 years, and you came up on stage and you had the tambourine.
Yeah,
It
man.
was
Yeah.
like a year ago or something. That was right before I ended up joining the Navy gig with with cats like Will Ledbetter and That was right before that. And then we saw each other again at the Get the Drummer Some with Herlin.
Yeah,
And
that's real.
yep, yep. So, yeah, life's been happening. No big
That's
deal.
what's up. I dig. Well, man, well, talk to me about what you've been learning like in New Orleans, because one of the things I said like to kind of advertise this was the thing that was unique about, and I didn't mention Christian DeShield, but what was dope about Big Band when we were playing was that me, you, and Christian like locked immediately. It was like this unspoken, like telepathic bond.
I remember
Um,
that was a special time in life. I mean, yeah, my bad. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I did. No, I agree. It was a very special time. And one of the things I was sharing with the people was I was talking with them about like your influences that I could immediately detect back then. I knew you had checked out some Herbie. You know what I'm saying? I knew you had checked out some Chick. I knew you had checked out some McCoy. I could hear at when we first started playing together, I could hear the Art Tatum, but I remember specifically you had that big baby grand piano. It was a white baby grand
Oh,
piano at your apartment, and I remember coming over and you were shedding Art Tatum,
and it was
and
my Elton John piano because it was all white.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that I ain't going front, dog. Yeah, that was that, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, you did have the Elton John, but dog, you would shoot. It might look like Elton John's, but you were working on freaking Art Tatum, and
I remember that.
bruh, like you were dealing with Art Tatum. It wasn't like you were just flirting with it like some people. Like no, you were
Correct.
legit playing Art Tatum. And what I've detected in your artistry now, what's so cool is like being able to hear you now, obviously the strong sense of rhythm is obviously still there. In fact, it's gotten even greater. But I've noticed that this New Orleans thing done rubbed off on you, man. It done your stuff is seasoned different, man. You know what I'm saying? You from Boston, so you know what I'm saying? You had like the, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like the northeastern thing. Like talk to me about that,
Oh,
man.
all right. So you know me. Uh, you know me quite well, and you know that I've been dealing with trad for a long time. Like you remember, Brantford put together that trad band with Lynn and I
Yeah.
to get us to stop playing crazy shit, start dealing with some melody, and this was
Yeah.
back in like 08, 09,
Okay.
right? And that was like the first time I really had like an actual cat, like a real someone who really knew this music, kind of you know give me some guidance on how to actually deal with it. But then several years ago, like I don't know, 2017, I moved to New Orleans, and I was I don't know for any of y'all that out there that know Adonis Rose.
Mm.
Adonis is a good friend of mine. We go back almost 20 years at this point, almost. And
Hmm.
this cat really looked out for me. When he found out I was moving to New Orleans, he hooked me up with everyone. He sent out a
Wow.
mass text today. I told him, and he hit up all the who's who and said, "Hey, be on the lookout for this guy on keys." And man, and it just set me up. And so I hit the ground running when I moved there, and I started playing with Delphio Marsalis' big band, the Uptown Jazz Orchestra, like right away. We played every single Wednesday night at
Wow.
Snug Harbor, to a club in New Orleans. We were doing little tours and stuff. And then Adonis brought me on to the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra,
Hmm.
which was kind of two layers there. There was the actual big band, which we did a lot of work. But then there was a small group, and and I'm still touring with them today. Actually, matter of fact, we're going to be at the Rose Room, Lincoln Center, May or something. Like I'm
Killing.
still playing with them. We're gonna be, they just Adonis just dropped an album with that group, so I got to do a lot of playing with these cats, and then so all that stuff combined with like starting to sit in at the hall. So I play at Preservation Hall every now and then, like subbing for like Kyle Seltz, phenomenal piano player in New Orleans. games.
Uh-huh.
Uh, like when he couldn't make it, sometimes they'd call me, and I would get to play with like, you know, Shannon Powell's down there, like all these masters, Herlin Riley. I got to play with on the regular at this. We would do some gigs. He would call me for a place, Snug Harbor, that I was
Okay.
talking about, and then you know, just sitting there watching these masters night after night. Or Ellis, man,
Come on.
he played every Friday night at Snug Harbor, and it was like free to all of us. It was like us going to Sharp 9 in Durham.
Yeah.
For all of you that know that familiar with the Durham area, we play Sharp 9.
Yeah.
And some of the cats that we've been around for long, we just walk in, and that's how Snug is. And so every Friday night was just like a master class. We would just sit and watch he play. And then, you know, sometimes he would be, the second set would roll around, and he would look around and he would see if like me or any of the other cats were around, and he'd invite us up to play. And
Wow.
it was funny, man, because he would get on his walker, and that man would make a beeline for the door and go home early as soon as he saw that there was another piano player in the house. So it's cool because you got to watch for the first
That's
time
funny. Yeah.
that you'd play with his band, and he would just kind of peace out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like what a way to learn. And you know, and his band was like, it would be like Adonis. It would be Derek Doge, a phenomenal tenor player.
Yeah.
Ashlyn Parker, great trumpet player, who's
Yeah.
actually from Charlotte.
Yeah.
And Jason Stewart, amazing
Mm-hmm.
player that played with E for a while. So, you know, that was just like an unbelievable education. And just to be around like the brass bands every single day, like there's constantly something going on with these cats are playing on Frenchman Street, or like the whole community. Like all we did was just write. We just wrote and wrote and wrote, and especially during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
A really close friend of mine, Gabrielle Cavazos, a singer, we spent like all of COVID just writing and working on an album together.
Wow.
And then did a lot of work with Adonis during that period too. And
Mm-hmm.
all those experiences just like completely changed my playing. I got really deep into Monk during that time too.
Okay.
Like really. I remember you actually, Q, you sent me a question about rhythm.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say the answer to that, like how do I deal with rhythm? What goes through my head? It's really like there's a couple different things.
Okay.
First, I want to give a shout out to Brevin Hampton because Brevin Hampton had been trying to get me on Monk for a long time. When we were in Central, bro, I don't know if you remember, he was always like, handsome, you're gonna deal with Monk, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was in my early 20s, I was an immature kid, and then one day I just finally I just did it, dealt with it, and I just absolutely fell in love and am obsessed with Monk's music for like the last 10 years. And that really changed things. But you know what else did?
Okay.
It was understanding where swing comes from, which is like that West African clave, man. It's like, you know, that's where the swing comes from. So
Yeah. Come on.
that it comes from like the 6/8.
Yeah.
You know, and you can tell me I'm wrong. I mean, you more versed in this as a drummer than I am. But to me,
keep going. That's it.
6/8, and you're not gonna feel the swing until you feel that, until you get that clave, until you can hear that. When you can hear that, you hear everything that goes underneath it. Man, you listen to James P. Or Jelly Roll, or you want to take a modern cat, look at Marcus Roberts.
Yeah.
And like take how they would interact. Man, they are so in tune with the root of four and the root of the groove. They can always get back there. So many things with it. And they also know where one is. That's a huge thing. Man, I don't know if you remember Christian McBride came to Central.
Yeah.
And, if there's any of my students on right now, I see Jonas Smith is on here. He's heard this a million times. He's probably going to tune out because he's tired of hearing it. When Christian came, he said, man, why are you shedding with the Met on 2 and 4 when you don't know where 1 is? Like, how are you going to find 2 if you can't find 1? He was like, I put the Met on 1 and 3. So I always put the Met on 1 and 3 because then I can do all sorts crazy stuff with the time, and I don't care where it goes. One. When that one comes around, you know where it is. So as soon as
Yeah.
you have that reference to one, and so that's one of the things I'm always thinking about is actually, even though I'm always trying to swing, I'm always actually thinking about the 1 and the 3, because then it's 2
Mhm.
and 4. And man, actually, matter of fact, you remember Doc had a shed on 1 and 3 with the Met?
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
about
I do. I remember that.
but man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack this conversation.
No,
Go ahead.
no, go because, bruh, you hitting everything. I'm enjoying it. Keep going. So Doc had us share with the metronome on 1 and 3. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean that just changed everything, because once you have that reference of one, like if you listen to like James P, he's always like doing this stuff on the upbeats, or like Marcus, for example. Marcus and Tane, like when like 80s Winton, early 90s,
Yeah.
what was it, Blues, was it Live at Blues Alley or House of Blues?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? And man,
Yeah.
and you listen to some of these moments where you're like, you're on the edge of your seat and you're like, yo, are they gonna find one? Are they not? They're not gonna find one, and then they find one,
Yeah.
because it's that it's so ingrained. And again, it also goes back to that 6/8. You're not thinking about 2 and 4. When cats are just like so worried about thinking about 2 and 4, as soon as something like, as soon as a vibe starts to happen, something like Herbie, man, you listen to like Herbie on some of his solo stuff, or like that duo stuff he did with what was it, him and Chick, like they get in all these moments, like these hemiolas and stuff, and then it resolves itself. But you can't do that without knowing the clave and knowing. So that's my platform.
Gee. Well, I'm gonna tell you, man. You literally just gave everybody the cheat code. You know.
It's go that and go listen to some, you know, that, because that was like, you listen to the most. As I got older, I started to realize the cats that everyone really wanted to emulate and really like loved listening to, like Kenny Kirkland. Man, Kenny Kirkland could play Monk without playing Monk. That's how deeply rooted in Monk he was.
Exactly.
Same, same with Marcus. Like, they had gone so deep into Monk that they weren't playing Monk anymore, but you knew they were playing Monk. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's very true, man. To your point about Monk, I remember my teacher at A&T, Mondre Moffitt. He talked about how Monk is really like the father of like modern music. And at the time when he would say that, I didn't really understand it,
Uh,
because you know how it is. It's like, you just young and you dumb, you know what I'm saying? And you have your limited understanding of the world, and you get a gem, like somebody says something to you that's that powerful, like you need a few years to really sit with it for it to even make sense. And you're completely right, man. It's like the thing about Monk that I encourage all of my students to look for is really what Winton said. Winton said to him, Monk sounds like the smartest person in the world if he were a child.
wow.
Yeah, he's like imagine going to see and talk to the smartest person in the world, but they're like mischievous, and they're very free, and they have an open heart, but like how like little children, like they be looking around, because they're about to do something, you know, like that's how he perceives Monk, and the harmonic freedom and the rhythmic freedom that he was able to explore because of that simple and humble approach is something that every improviser needs to deal with.
Bro,
You touched on. Go
real
ahead. Go ahead.
quick, I just want to hit on something you just said. This is like, to get a little deeper with it. Honestly, kids kind of are the smartest people in the room, because they're not bullshitting. They're not lying.
Exactly.
That's what makes them so smart. They're so honest. Like, you can be as book smart, articulate as you want, but if you're just bullshitting your way through life like we do as adults, right? Everything's just winking and nodding at each other, and it's like, just like, yeah, okay, this is cool, right? You know, and it's like, but no, it really isn't. We're just lying about everything. But kids are honest, and that is the most intelligent thing, is just to be honest, and that's what Monk was.
That's powerful.
You know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Ladies and
Sorry.
gentlemen, y'all just heard it. Y'all just heard it, ladies and gentlemen. I told you, Ryan Hansler is the truth. Just to recap real quick, he gave y'all all of the secrets for you to get your rhythm together. He talked about having a strong understanding of beats 1 and 3. Remember, if you play one, beat 2 has to come after it. The
Right.
same thing if you play beat 3, beat 4 has to come after it. So if you have a strong understanding of 1 and 3, it's going to be easy to deal with those other beats. Then he told you, and I'll say it like this as a drummer, he gave you the secret on how to syncopate those rhythms. A lot of times, the way we're taught syncopation, because it isn't taught from the West African framework,
Needs to be.
we overcomplicate something that is very simple. He told you that bell pattern, he gave you the 6/8 or the 12/8 bell pattern. That has all the syncopation that you need. And if you can learn how to ride that wave, because the wave, what it does is that rhythm, that clave pattern, all clave patterns are designed to do this. If you have beats 1, 2, 3, and 4, the clave pattern is designed to take you up and then bring you back down, take you back up, and then bring you back down. So if you learn how just to let that wave happen, you ain't got to do nothing to it. They figured it out thousands of years ago. You know what I'm saying? In fact, forget human beings. This is how God set the numbers up to interact with one another. That 3-against-2 polyrhythm is literally set up for you to succeed in all things
Right.
syncopated.
Right.
So, bro, when you said that, I started clapping because I'm just like, dog, you done gave them the cheat code. If you work on those two things, I promise you, if you are having any problems in your rhythm, in your ability to syncopate, I'm telling you, they're gonna resolve themselves.
Bro, the way, I don't understand why schools try to even teach swing remotely the way they do. Like, like this shit doesn't make any sense. And it's like,
Yeah.
this isn't some, you know, deep magical understanding or connection to the music. This is really just like the right way to explain it. Like, let's just get to the root of where it comes from. Like,
Exactly.
Africa. Let's just get right to that. And then it's like, why do you skip around? Like, why do we not go right to where it comes from? It would just be so much easier. Like, I don't know. It's like imagine trying to like build a car, but you don't want to learn about the engine. You just want to learn about how like the CD player works. You know what I mean? It's
Come on.
like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a whole
Well,
other conversation.
I dig, but just very quickly to your point and to help a lot of the musicians that are watching, you're saying the same thing that Barry Harris talked about. Because one of the things I loved about watching, and everybody who's up here, you need to watch all of the Barry Harris instructional videos from The Hague. He had a whole series of videos of him over in Europe teaching. And listen,
I
all you gotta do,
I check this out.
bro, I'm telling you, it's fire. And what he does is he explains what you're talking about. He tells everybody, he's like, listen, I was at the house. I was in Monk's house, and he taught me flat 5 chords. He said, stop coming to me talking about a half diminished chord. He's like, Monk didn't even think like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, he thought of it as a minor flat 5. And the reason why he's making these very specific differences, because he's like, well, the reason why they sound the way that they sound is because they thought a certain way. The reason why you don't sound the way that they sound is because you're not thinking about it the same way that they're thinking about it. So you need to humble yourself, forget what you think you know,
Yep.
and go deal with it the way that they thought about it so that you can produce the sound. So I want to.
Yeah, that goes back to that what you were saying about Monk, man, and like the whole concept of being a child. Like, children do what just feels right. So kids don't sit there and go, oh well, I'm supposed to do it this way because this was said in the book, which is how we conduct ourselves in life, right? We go to a job and we do things by like how our manager or boss say we're supposed to. Okay, this is how you're supposed to do your job. Kids don't work like that, man. Kids just are like, what do I feel? What makes sense? What is intuitive? What's intuitive? That's how like the most amazing musicians. And actually, when you go to the roots of music, man, like when you go to when you really listen, when you listen to like any sort of drumming, right? Because drumming is like the drums and the voice are like the two oldest things that we've got for instruments.
Come on, yeah.
And if you really go listen to like some old deep cuts that are drum vocals, I mean, it's like all that shit came from the heart. Like if you go back and hundreds of years ago, none of that stuff, man. Thousands of years ago, no one was like, okay, well, per theory and Karen analysis of this, I need to write it like this. No, man, it's just like what felt good, what expressed how I'm feeling, and that's like, you know, and then that's the stuff that we always are most that we resonate with the most. Like think about what like concerts, when people go see concerts and like you see like yeah, I don't care who it is, I don't care what genre of music, I don't care if you're talking about Green Day or if you're talking about like going to see the like blues, you're going to see fucking Charlie Parker. I don't care who you're talking about. If you see someone and they're really getting emotional on stage, or sometimes like you'll see like singers and they're like crying because they're getting so passionate about what they're singing, that's when people really start listening because they're being honest. It has nothing to do with anything else but honesty and how you're feeling.
That's powerful, man.
And it's like a lot of time, man, that's one of the biggest takeaways I got from Ellis. Ellis was not a like technically virtuosic. I mean, he was a phenomenal piano player, but if you put him up like, I mean, it's not like Gonzalo Rubalcaba or like listening to like Chick. He couldn't facilitate stuff the same way some of those guys could, but that didn't matter. Especially like in his 80s, right? When he passed, I mean, I forget how old he was. In my head, I'm thinking 83 or 86. I got the two backwards, but he couldn't move his hands that fast, but he was so lyrical and so musical.
Yeah.
Right? And it didn't matter the virtuosity that was associated with it. Mm-hmm. It was just very true to what he felt. And that was one of the big ways I got from Ellis, is that like it has nothing to do with the speed or the how technical things are. It can be the simplest thing in the world. You know, they tried to teach us the central too, the same thing. I remember Dr. Horton. You know, we would be in there with Horton. He'd be teaching us how to soul with one note.
Exactly.
Because it's all about that rhythm that's behind that one note, and how you feel, and putting that behind that one note.
That's it, man. Yeah. Yeah. Rest in peace, Brian Horton, man. That was another cat, man, like an older brother to me, and you're completely right. Really, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna say it how it came to me. I remember toward the end of my time at A&T, Moffitt used to talk about, he said, Q, he said, you need to investigate folk music. He said, folk music. He said, it's all about, he was like, the difference in like our art form is jazz being considered high art, like this very, very, very complex, intellectual aesthetic thing. He said the difference between our music and Western classical music is that it comes from it don't come from people, even though it's incredibly genius music, it don't come from that particular class of people, meaning that it's not rich people's music. It's like poor people. When you look at the history of jazz, it was made in very, very, very humble places. And even though there is a high level of technical mastery, like what you were just describing, at the end of the day, the technical mastery is only designed really to further express that childlike humility, that childlike simplicity. So I really appreciate that, man. And what you saying that, and even while you were saying that, I think we talked about this briefly, but as weird as it is, I'm teaching music at the elementary school level, and bruh, when you talk about like just getting straight to the point and just being honest, man,
But yeah,
that's one of the things I love about teaching these kids. And you're right that you mentioned the element of intuition, just being honest and just dealing with it. One of the things that
yeah,
that's really fun about the learning process with them is I just play it for them. Like I'll just play them something. I'll play them some. For example, we've been checking out tap
okay,
dancing. So
okay,
so I've been showing them all of this Sammy Davis Jr. stuff. I've been showing them William Bojangles Robinson. But then we're comparing tap dancing though to like flamenco dancing from Spain, and then we're comparing that to like the rodeo dancing in Texas and Mexico, and we're comparing that to like the Irish jig with like river dance,
right.
and then we're looking at the original African Zauli dance. And what's dope is all you got to do with kids is just show it to them, and they'll figure out the rest. They're like, okay, so I get it. All of this is the same. It's just these people do it
Um,
different, and these people do it different.
right, right, man. That's one of the like I got a son, and man, that's one of the things I've learned from him is watching him grow. Is it's just that it's that honesty and what it really could allow you to do. And man, that's kind of another takeaway from this is like, oh, real quick. Side note, Greg Azid, what up, bro? I see his comment over there says, "Bro, are you shedding and driving?" I gotta tell a quick side story about this cat. I don't know, Q. Do you know who Greg Azid is?
Nah, I don't recognize that particular photo. I don't recognize
He's
it.
a killing clarinet player from New Orleans. I
Bet.
think he's on tour with Michael Bublé now, or I don't know if he's still doing that gig or not. What This is a side story. He called me one time, and I was driving from like Virginia all the way down to New Orleans,
Uh-huh.
and I had this little keyboard that was like 32 keys, and I had a CD player, and I had this tiny little truck. I was a tiny little Tacoma or something. I was doing a truck, and I was shedding. I had the side seat, and I was shedding Kenny Kirkland. I was transcribing them. I'd be doing like pause, rewind in the CD player with the right hand, steer with my knee, and then transcribe on this keyboard over here that was sitting on.
Yeah.
And Greg Z calls me, goes, "Bro, no, you're not. So let me get this straight. You're now talking on the phone to me, and you're transcribing Kenny Kirkland while playing the keyboard while driving down the highway." I was like,
Right.
"No, no, no." He's like, "Pull over." That ain't.
Got you.
Anyways, what were we talking about? You're talking about the honesty of kids,
Yeah,
and
man.
yeah, man, it's just like really just man, I really took a lot of the like watching my son and how easy it was for him to figure stuff out just by being honest with himself, and I really tried to put that into how I learn music and how I figure stuff out.
Hmm.
And just you know, man, yo, you want to take the conversation 1 second? We're at the house. I'm about to go inside, but while I
Yeah.
get inside, you wanna
Yeah,
keep this
that's cool, man. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and get set up, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all are hearing it from Ryan. You know, tonight. I hope all of the students who we invited, I hope all of y'all are listening. It's really not that difficult. The whole purpose of you receiving any kind of formal training in music is really designed for you to learn how to teach yourself. That's really what it boils down to. Um, and that's why you need to get with the right type of teachers. I know for me, I've been blessed because every single teacher that I've ever had, that's what they were trying to do. They literally were just trying to give me, they weren't so much trying to teach me a specific thing as much as they were trying to teach me how to think. And they knew that I already had the natural gift to play music. So they were just like, bro, you just need a work ethic. Just don't be lazy. If I give you something, go work hard on it. And honestly, you humbling yourself and just working hard, that what I gave you will teach you everything you need to know. And then all I need to do is you just come back to me as somebody better, as somebody who knows more than you, who's further down the line, and we'll talk about it. and then maybe I'll fill in the gaps of what you're missing. But that's really how the process is supposed to go. Ryan earlier he mentioned, you know, something that was very powerful. He talked about how the master drummer Adonis Rose, when he moved to New Orleans, how Adonis Rose opened up doors for him, you
Oh man,
know, for
add
his playing career.
that two to it. So I'm gonna talk about that in a minute when they get settled here.
Yeah, 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 definitely, man. Take your time, bro. That's another thing that's very important. It don't matter how killing you are, you got to know the right people. And whenever I say know the right people, I mean like you got to have the right people. You have to have the right attitude, and you got to have the right people in your corner. Look at that. Come on, got the picture of Monk. Let's go.
Yeah.
Um, you gotta have the right people in your corner because honestly, you don't need everybody liking you. You just need the right people liking you. Let me ask you this, Ryan, while you're getting set up.
I can kind of talk
Uh,
things moving.
you you decided to do New Orleans instead of New York. Why?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, it's actually kind of funny because like going back, I don't know if you remember the difference between Joey and Bramford on this issue. So when we were in school, when we were Central, I had both of them in my ear, and Joey was saying, "Man, you know, you should probably move to New York, like study with Fred Hurst or something. Like, you know, that's you'll start playing for like $5, and then you'll make like $20, and then eventually you'll make $100, and eventually you're gonna go on tour, and it's gonna be great. And then Bradford would be there, and go, man, what are you talking about? Like, it just those days are done. And you know, the two of them went back and forth on the issue, and but like eventually, it just man, I thought about it, and I was like, I didn't want to be competing with like there was a distinct difference in the sound in New York versus New Orleans. Like, there's just such an anxiety to me that always exists in the music, not always, but that exists today in New Orleans music. I mean, in music of New York. It's just like, it's just like everyone's fighting all the time in the music. Like, you can just hear the aggression and anxiety in the music. I don't hear the same melody. Even like the harmony is just always sounds like sad and stress-filled to me. And then, but when you go to New Orleans, people are living the music. Like, the music is an absolute reflection of life, and it's like no one's trying to prove anything. None of it's about. It's not like no one's trying to prove anything. Even though like people are all still living off the music, right? Just like New York, like cats are still competing for gigs, but but it's not competition like it is in New York. In New Orleans, it's like everyone loves one another, right? And you're just trying to help like your fellow musician who is your friend, you're trying to help him get better. One second. One second. One second.
That's
Like
killing.
saying
I did.
some
I
person.
hope everybody's paying attention to that because, like, that is very true. You're really talking about
Oh,
like the difference in Southern hospitality to a large extent. You're still talking about like that heavy culture of family, which um, I ain't gonna front. Whenever you listen to a lot of the older musicians, the thing that I love about like reading about like the period of the 40s and the 50s is that New York at that time was filled with a bunch of people from the South, and so they kept that particular tradition. But you are right, like in some ways, um, yeah, I totally hear the and understand the stark contrast. But keep
all
going.
right. Now you get my attention. Now I'm kind of settled down, so I can kind of focus a little bit now. So, man, I think, man, it's kind of a deep issue with the stuff in New York. I feel like there's a lot of things that have happened, right? So, the musicians union doesn't like. Okay, so if you go back to the ability to make a living wage in New York is not what it used to be. Um, it it's not like New Orleans. So I'm going to be clear about it. That actually there's no denying that that's not part of it, right? When
Hmm.
in New York, cats the cost of living is $4,000 a month for rent, and you're getting $100 on a gig, whereas in New Orleans, you know, with tips we might be making 200 to 300 on a gig, and the cost of rent is $1,500 a month.
Right.
That obviously does play a factor in it, but that goes back to like there's a lot of different things in there too. Like if you know, musicians union used to have a lot more power in New York, actually in general. And I forget, there was some election that took place. Whitten was talking about this one time. There was an election that took place, and basically the musicians union had put up a fuss about some sort of fees or something, and it was during World War II. It was during wartime, and they realized that, like, well, this is a non-essential item anyways. So, you know, the musicians union actually used to have a lot of sway on the elections too, because it was such a big deal. But they argued about something during wartime when they really shouldn't have been. And people realized, well, what are we worried about the musicians union anyways? What do we, you know, this isn't a necessary item. And it became a non-essential thing, right? And we lost a lot of power as musicians by trying to fight for stuff that we really didn't have any business fighting for during this time. So in New York, that really made a big difference because you have such an unbelievable population of people in an area where like things cost so much money. So you can't really be nitpicking and making, you know, silly decisions that are going to impact the financial well-being of people. But let's go back to like the Southern hospitality in New Orleans and just what's going on down there. In my time of living there, which, you know, it was only several years, it wasn't a long time, but what I gathered from there was just, it's an interesting dichotomy because there's an unbelievable amount of tragedy that exists there, right? You have a culture, Black culture to be specific, that's been exploited since day one in the country, but very specifically New Orleans because you're at the hub of the most important waterway in the country, where Black labor was like, okay, it's one thing when you're talking about South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, but when you're talking about the exploitation of Black labor in the waterway, where that is like, that was vital to the success of the country, right? Because you have all this stuff getting imported and exported. So you have like the what's the word I'm looking for? The separation of classes and poverty and exploitation is kind of to a point of extremes there. What I get, and that creates like there's a lot of turmoil and there's an unbelievable amount of sadness and poverty and pain that exists in that city. And anytime then you get Katrina, you get a whole history of like really painful experience that happen for these people, and that's that's a lot of the source for where it is from what I saw, from where the music comes from. But, you know, so there is an unbelievable amount of honesty in the music and an unbelievable truth to where it's coming from. And that's one thing you don't have in New York, right? It's a different thing that's going on down there. And at the same time with that pain, you also have this beauty because the support that people have for one another. And what I think happened too is I think a lot of it is because it's a necessity, right? For the people in New Orleans to get through some of the things that you see in history that city has been through. I think the only thing you can do is support one another. You can't just fight one another constantly or you're going to have nothing. You yourself want to fight someone think that you're going to beat them up and take whatever it is they have. Eventually someone's going to beat you up and take what you got. So that system doesn't work. And I think in New Orleans, one of the mechanisms for survival, which people have needed in that city for, you know, corruption and everything I've been talking about, is just to love one another and to treat one another well. And just, if I lift you up, it lifts us all up. You know, that kind of mentality.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So it's really, it's a deep thing that's taken place there. And all of that is part of the music. And like Mary Lou Williams talked about this. My wife, Grace Jessup, made me hip to this because she loves Mary Lou Williams and she's read so many books on her. And showing me this lecture by Mary Lou. And Mary Lou Williams is talking about the importance, in order to play this music, what is it that she said? She said that she talked about basically what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not generosity. That's not it. But it's like serving mankind. That's one of the right. So we think like, oh, you got to be able to swing, you got to know how to improvise. Blah, 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 blah. She said, no. Pain is one thing. You have some amount of suffering and experience in life, but you also have to have this element of not just compassion, but donation of your time and your energy to people, to mankind, and the betterment of mankind. You have to, that's really powerful, right? So, and I think New Orleans hits that on the head. Like, every single musician there, and people, not just musicians, are looking out for one another. And that's exactly what Williams spoke to. And that's why the music is so powerful. It's one of the reasons. You know?
That's it, man. That's see, the reason why I'm so glad we're having this particular conversation, bro, is that for America, and for especially with so much of like the racial strife going on right now between blacks and whites, you don't understand how much God is using you right now in your compassion and your understanding of what black folk have gone through for you to say the things that you're saying. It's like, because that's the only way we're going to be able to heal, is that we got to come to it. We got to come to the table like we're doing right now. Now, granted, we're talking about music, but what's so beautiful is in the process of us talking about music, we're talking about all of these other socio-political, socio-economic things, because what art imitates life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the thing is that while you're talking, I'm just like, yo, Ryan, man, like, yo, this cat really gets it. Not just the technical part, but the part that's the layer beyond, the humanitarian part that's behind the music. And I know, because I used to be one of these black people, sometimes in order for black people to get like the healing that they need because of racism that we've experienced in this country, we just need to hear that white people understand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like what we've gone through. And that's just real beautiful, man. Like, yo, you saying a lot of really beautiful things right now, yo.
I agree, but there's a point that I disagree. I don't think it's just about us having conversations across the table. I think white people need to have conversations with white people, because I think we're the ones that need to, like, the black community has said, look, this is all we need. This is what we need. We just need you to, like, this is what we need. We need to understand. This is what we're dealing with. This is how we're feeling. And it's no longer about, like, the conversation's been had. We, as white people, know what to do. We need to have the conversation with ourselves. Like, James Baldwin talked about this. Like, this isn't really a black problem. This is a white problem. Racism in the country is a white problem. I mean, you know what I mean? It's literally,
Yeah.
you suffer, right? You're the black community is the one that suffers, but it's a white problem.
I did.
You know?
Yeah, it's like James Baldwin was basically saying, like, yo, we ain't start this.
Right.
But keep going. Keep going. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like one second. Kiddo, are you hungry? You can steal a banana, of course. Sorry.
No, you cool,
If
man. I think
you need to make eggs.
let me say this to the people while he's talking. For those who have never heard of Jane Elliott, you need to dig Jane Elliott. Look at her after you get through watching this video. Jane Elliott does this. So she's a Caucasian lady. And what she does is she does these racial experiments where she, like, because Ryan said something powerful. He's like, yeah, we need to have blacks and whites talk together, but we also, like, white folk got to talk to each other about this. And the beautiful thing about Jane Elliott is she's a white woman. She gets a lot of white people in the same room, and they just have, and she basically lays it down. She puts them through like these different social experiments to get them to feel how black people have felt and been discriminated against. And it's real beautiful to see people's perspective change after they deal with that. So yo, everybody, whether you black, white, yellow, purple, purple, I don't care if you're from Mars, take a YouTube search of Jane Elliott. It's gonna do you very
Yep.
well.
Yep. But kiddo, do you need eggs? Or are you good? Do you need any more food? You just need water. Sorry.
Nah,
My
nah,
bad.
nah, you cool, man. You be in the pot, man. That's once again art imitates life, man.
He makes his own scrambled eggs now. He's actually quite good at it. Makes them for
Yeah,
me.
that's what's up. Come on.
Um, yeah, man. So, that's just that's my take on that whole thing. Because I'm always like, I don't know. I'm always fascinated. The subject always kind of fascinates me.
Mm.
I just it's like especially we look at the state of the country right now, and why is there my son sitting over there going like this? Talking because I said the state of the country
I
was
did, yeah. It's like, yeah, we're in a bad place. Yeah.
in
That's a smart young man.
a rough place. I mean, you have a group of people that you know they think that the like John Stewart was talking about this the other night. It's the group of people that thinks like that the definition of patriotism is to allow someone to be is trying to get someone in office that wants to be a dictator. Like what? Where are we at?
Right.
Like really? That's So there's some crazy things happening. So it's a lot to when you have people like that in the country, and then we're trying to get them to be like, hey, we need to have this talk with our. You're trying to get them on a deeper level to be like, hey, we have this talk about like kind of let's figure out these issues that we built this country on, right? We built this country on thievery, on stealing the land and slavery, and we made a hell of a profit off of it. Like we should probably talk about that amongst ourselves, right? It's just the unfortunate reality is that's a tall expectation when you're talking about having this conversation with people that actually can't even uh, really understand what it means to be uh, to follow the Constitution in the way that they the Constitution is a document that these people hold so near and dear, and they don't even understand how to really adhere to that. And they're trying to elect a leader that doesn't even understand anything about that. So then how can you then expect these same group of people to go and have a deep conversation with themselves, amongst themselves, about the wrongs that this entire country is built off of? It's just like, man, to me, I get discouraged sometimes.
I did.
I'm a pessimist a lot of times. I think, man, how are we going to get past all? Like, there's so many things we need to get past. How are we going to do
But
that?
but I'll say this though. The but that's why love is needed, because the beautiful thing is that love covers a multitude of sins. And what love is able to do is love is able to be patient while that group of people is slowly but surely realizing and processing out of that negative mindset. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
you're right.
Because that's all that it is. It's like one of the things that I'm learning in this particular subject, and in being on the road as a missionary really helped clarify this for me, was that wait a second, just like white people need to have a conversation amongst themselves, black people, we need to have a conversation amongst ourselves, which is we need to, and this is what Dr. King was constantly talking about. He was talking about love because he was like, well, look, how can we have been victimized the way that, or I don't like the word victimized, I like to say targeted. So King was like, how can we understand what it's like to have been targeted the way that we have? And then whenever we get the opportunity and we get the reins of power, we do the exact same thing that was done to us. That actually makes us twice as bad. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
The reality of it is that yes, we've gone through a lot as a people, but we have to have, and that's how you know it's supernatural. That's where you start talking about the love of Christ. You start talking about the love of God, because human beings in and of ourselves, we don't have the ability to do this. This type of love don't exist in three-dimensional reality. You got to break out of this dimension in order to get it, but it is possible. And it's that type of love that's able to look past people's right and wrongs and really see God in them, and also be patient while that person or while that group of people is processing out of that, because all it is just spiritual immaturity. All that love is spiritual maturity. And so hatred is the inverse of that. It's just spiritual immaturity. The reason why I hate you is because I'm too baby minded to see the God in you. Because mature people recognize there's a piece of God in everybody, and that in order for my life, you just described it, but you described it in terms of music. In order for my life to be better, I need to tap into the good that's in you, because there's a part of good that's in you that I ain't got. But if mine rubs together with yours, we can make even more. And then we can take ours and we can rub it together with somebody else's. And
Come on, bro.
next thing you know,
Come on.
all of,
Come on.
you know what I'm saying?
Come on.
It's so I think, and this is crazy, bro. This is how I know that this is a God ordained conversation, because none of the questions I sent you had anything to do with
No, we're on
this.
a whole different. We went.
I'll say this. It was a necessary conversation, man. I think we're gonna get ready to wrap things up.
Yeah, yeah.
And me and you know what I'm saying, we could talk
I
obviously like off camera.
agree with man.
But Ryan, tell the people, you mentioned some of the gigs where you're gonna be at. I'm
Oh
telling
yeah.
you, I guarantee you there are people who will travel to come see you, man. Where you gonna be at?
Uh, Let me think for a minute. What are going on? Oh, right. If you're in New Orleans, April 28th, I'm gonna be at Jazz Fest with Swin Parker and Trumpet Mafia, and then that
Mm.
same night, I'm gonna be at the Bayou Bar, I think, with Jason Marsalis, Peter Harris, Ricardo Pascal. Trying to think if and John Michael Bradford's going to be there too, phenomenal trumpet player. And then we're going
Mm.
to be there again, I think Monday, or maybe Herlin's on that one. And we're going to be in the studio today too. That's the whole little thing going on. And then I'm going to be with Adonis Rose. It's a battle of the bands actually. Orrin Evans is going to be with his band and
Woo!
orchestra. So it's us versus New Orleans Jazz Orchestra versus Orrin's band, and that's at the Rose Room at May 17th and 18th. June 8th, I'm going to be at DC Jazz Fest. There's something going on. I'm trying to remember where. The bigger one, the local one for Cats in North Carolina, August 15th. I'm going to be with Adonis Rose, Brian Miller, and Will Ledbetter, one of my new favorite bass players.
Come on.
We're going to be at Sharp 9, and in the 16th and 17th, and the vocalist is to be determined. Might be Gabrielle Cavassa, might not be. Waiting to hear on her schedule. 16th and 17th, same thing. Adonis, Brian Miller, Will Ledbetter, and myself at Prime Smokehouse.
Mm.
2 nights. There'll be other stuff coming up, but for now. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up, man. Let me pull up my calendar. I'm forgetting like 2. Yo, you
Y'all give
still
them
there?
1 second.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm still here. Say that again. You said you're
one
forgetting what?
second. So one second. Let me look at
All right, cool beans. So while he's grabbing his calendar, see, this is why I love doing this, because we just let the conversation, just like the music, we just go, and we end up in some really, really, really beautiful places. I want everybody who's watching this, hit that share button, man. Um, Share this with people, because you never know what they're going through, and them hearing, these things, man. You never know how it can be a blessing and a benefit to their lives. Um, I want
Wine.
you. Go ahead.
Before I forget. Wine Feed, March 23rd, 7 to 9
Mm.
p.m. with Krishan Darby.
Woo. Okay.
And then I got one with Dorian Dotson and Al Strong. I think that's March 28th. I got to look where that's at.
Mm.
So,
Well, that's just popping, man.
yeah.
I
I've
dig.
been, uh,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we about to wrap this up. Y'all see my brother from another mother, Mr. Ryan Hansler.
man, I
Once
can't,
again,
bro. This has been a great conversation, and honestly, just because of how like far back you and I go, And bro, how much I love you, man. This is nice to have this conversation because like there was a period of time, like you and I, for all you don't know out there, Q and I went just life happened and we didn't talk for years. And
Yeah.
Q, who's just like such a humble, loving cat, called me out of the blue. I was like loading in for a sound check with Gabby one night at this gig like a year and a half ago. And I was like, hey, bro, it's me. How you doing? And it was just like that. And we just started talking again.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah,
this
man.
to have this deep conversation, like kind of like we used to.
Exactly. And you brought up a valid point. This is how you know when you really are true friends with somebody. We picked up like we never stopped. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, so I
Yeah.
appreciate this, man. I know everybody watching appreciates this. And yeah, man, we're gonna definitely do it again. And y'all need to be on the lookout because me and Ryan
We're
about
gonna
to do some playing again.
eventually. This is gonna we're gonna make something happen.
Yeah,
So
man.
that off this conversation maybe tomorrow.
I did.
Yeah.
Right, man.
All right.
Everybody, Ryan, I'll holler at you, man.
All right, bro.
All right, man.